President Biden's approval rating has sunk to 33% in a new Quinnipiac poll. The new low for the president, who received 36% support in November, not a lot better. Biden's downtrend is buoyed by 57% of independents who disapprove of Biden's job performance and a dip among Democratic voters. Biden saw his approval among the group slip from 87% in November to 75% in this latest poll. What do you think is causing the dip, Ryan?
Well, you see it, Democrats, which is, there is a structural kind of and fundamental difference between Democrats and Republicans, at least Republicans as they related to Trump, but not as they related to George W. Bush. Like, the only way that George W. Bush got down into the 30s and 20s toward the end of his term is because Republicans turned on him. Because if Republicans, if your party sticks with you and your kind of independents that lean your direction stick with you, then you have a floor of what, like 40, 39, 40, right. 41, 42% that you're not going to go behind no matter what you do. Shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue. But Biden doesn't have that with Democrats. Like, Obama probably had that with Democrats, but Biden does not. And so all of, like, Republicans in November and October and August, they already hated him. Republican-leaning independents already hated him and disapproved of him. But there you see him going from 87 down to 75 among Democrats. That's the difference right there. So you have a lot of Democrats who are now turning on him, and that can create the flush.
But I think it would be, why? I mean, there's a lot of independents also turning on him, but the big question is why? I mean, is it, there's like three things I could kind of think of. I mean, maybe they feel like his mind is not, he's slipping, he's not fully there. Is it because of the mandates and people feeling like, let's just move on with the economy at this point? Do you think it's maybe maybe even his kind of warmongering posture he's kind of taken lately in his last two most recent speeches that have kind of been like Americans themselves are the terrorists in this country? I don't know if that would harm his ratings with other Democrats. I'm just trying to get, or is it the spread of the virus and people are just like, whoa, why did this go out of control? And now I'm really afraid. I mean, what do you think it is? Well,
yes, the virus, like, you're seeing Democrats frustrated because what they wanted from Biden was somebody who was competent. Whether it was Biden himself, they figured we're going to bring in the experts now. And so we're not going to have all of these ridiculous problems that we had under Trump. It's going to be methodical. Everyone's going to have the tests that they need. The vaccine rollout went very well. Like, that was ramped up well and rolled out for a week or two there were some hiccups, but then within a week or two everybody who wanted a vaccine can get one. Right. Today anybody who wants a vaccine can fairly easily go and find one. But it didn't go beyond that. So the schooling situation is still struggling. Now people are being told that cloth masks don't work. They're like, wait a minute, you're telling me this now? Like, this might have been useful for me to learn a year ago since I've been wearing this cloth mask.
Well, people tried, but that was censored.
They want to hear it from Democrats. They want to hear it they want to hear it from their side. And then finally, the testing snafu was huge. I think the testing. Yeah, that might be the big one. That might actually be what's really upsetting people is the testing. Them not, 2 years later. I mean, come on. Why doesn't everybody have an N95 mask and a cabinet full of tests? Right. That to me just seems like the most basic thing that should have started at the very beginning of the pandemic. Get everybody some PPE gear and get everybody some tests. I mean, just so that people could feel safe being around their own family members. I mean, I know I personally test every single time I go around my elderly family, every single time. Even though I've had natural immunity for a long time, I seem to be fairly immune from like everybody around me is getting COVID, and I haven't caught it again. But, but nonetheless, people want to feel like I can confidently go around my loved ones or be around their grandchildren or whoever they feel like they need to protect. And that, I think, is the big snafu that the Biden administration, it just doesn't feel like the adults are still in the room. I think it was a bad idea for Democrats to think they could control a virus. I think that was a bit, now that kind of strategy, the thinking of like, oh, well, we're going to get in there and we'll control it, or we're going to, like Nancy Pelosi at one point said, we're going to squash this virus, we're going to crush this virus. And it's like, man versus virus doesn't have a good record. Yeah, and there was some really They tried to overthink it, and there was some evidence that one reason that they were so bad and sloppy on tests is that they wanted to push vaccines as the solution, which, okay, fine, but you can't ignore everything else. And what some of them were thinking is that if we push testing and if everybody has access to easy tests, then people are just going to take tests rather than get the vaccine. But that is a completely broken way of thinking. And, it totally backfired on them. Now, secondly, I think. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to mention also a lack of early treatment. Now with everybody catching COVID, a lot of people. I ask them, okay, what does the doctor say? And they say just go home and take some vitamin C. I mean, luckily Omicron has proven to be less deadly for many people, but not for everybody. And those people, look, if you've been afraid for 2 years of this virus. And you really believe, like many Democrats do believe that it's a 1 in, half chance you're going to end up hospitalized. So if you're very afraid of it, then it is not soothing when the doctor then says there's nothing we could do until you hit the point where you need to be hospitalized. So cross your fingers.
And I think the other half of this is legislative failure. They spent the entire summer and fall talking about the very good and popular things that they were not going to do, which is the worst of all worlds. Like, if you're not going to do those things, the politically smarter thing to do would be just not promise them in the first place. Because they didn't get elected on a particular platform. They got elected as a negation of Trump. Like, he just kind of walked into the White House. Then he said, I'm going to, they does a year of the child tax credit. I'm going to cut drug prices. I'm going to do all of these different things that are going to make people's lives better. And then for 6 months, all the headlines are, actually, no. Democrats are not going to do this. Oh, and voting rights? No, we're not going to do that because, well, there's a Senate procedure. It's complicated. Yes, we give speeches every other day about how important democracy is, and we're about to lose our country, and there's going to be a fascist takeover. But yeah, the filibuster, sorry. So we're not going to do anything about that. And so at that point, it's like, what do Democratic voters have to get inspired about?
Well, and especially, I just think that really probably the real reason why his ratings are going down is because of inflation. I mean, look, people, whatever reason they want to blame for inflation, everybody's got a different reason to blame. I mean, some people say, well, it's the mandates. Others say, no, it's because the virus is going rampant and people won't get vaccinated. And that's what, whatever their reason, they're mad about it. And they're blaming Biden, and they're saying you should be doing more, whether it be drop the mandates or force people into vaccinations. You should be doing more. And we're paying for it at the pump. We're paying for it at the grocery store. This isn't okay. That's probably driving most of the negative feelings, I would imagine.
Some of it for sure, no doubt. Yeah. Anyway, Team Rising will join us next.